Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're getting into something called vibe coding. It's a pretty interesting shift in how software gets made, especially now with generative AI everywhere.
It really is. We're drawing on a few things today, looking at what vibe coding actually means, some insights from the Generative AI Professional Prompt Engineering Guide and its website.
Right, and there's also a prompting cheat sheet app.
Exactly. Plus a couple of case studies, a dynamic HTML5 Kanban board, and a Python GUI currency converter, both built using this vibe coding approach.
Okay, so the plan is to break down what vibe coding is,
Mhm.
what it means for you experts listening, and the important stuff to think about if you decide to use it.
Precisely. This whole idea, Andrej Karpathy's talked about it quite a bit. It's really a different way of thinking compared to traditional software development.
How so?
Well, at its heart, it's about using natural language prompts, basically telling an AI what you want and having it generate functional software. What makes it potentially really useful for experts is that it's focused on speed building things quickly, maybe temporary tools or projects where you're just exploring an idea, or even educational stuff.
So less about building the next big permanent enterprise system and more about quick, specific needs.
Exactly. It's a contrast to that really rigorous, long process you usually go through for those big, long-lasting applications.
So let me see if I got this right. Instead of me sitting down, writing Python or Java line by line, debugging it all, I just sort of describe what I want the software to do in plain English.
That's the core concept, yeah. The sources we looked at highlight a few key things driving this. First, obviously, is that natural language interface. It just feels more intuitive for many people.
Makes sense.
Second, it tends to be very iterative. You give a prompt, you get some code, you look at it, and then you guide it further with more prompts.
So it's like a conversation almost. You're refining it as you go,
Yeah.
like conversational debugging.
You could put it that way, yes. A back and forth refinement.
Okay, that's interesting. Does that mean then that an expert using vibe coding doesn't necessarily need to understand every single detail of the code the AI spits out?
That's a really central point, actually, this idea of acceptance without complete understanding. You can leverage what the AI builds without maybe knowing the deep intricacies of every line.
That sounds potentially powerful, but maybe a bit risky too.
It absolutely speeds things up, which is attractive. But yes, it definitely raises questions about things like performance, optimization, long-term maintenance, especially for critical expert-level tools. We'll definitely circle back to those risks.
And this idea ties into the democratization of software creation that people talk about, making it easier for non-coders or experts in other fields.
Exactly right. It lowers the barrier.
Yeah.
It abstracts away a lot of the traditional coding complexity, potentially letting, say, a biologist or a financial analyst build a custom tool for their own specific work.
Okay, but it's not just magic, right? Our sources stress that you can't just type anything and expect perfect software. There's a skill involved, sophisticated prompt engineering.
Oh, absolutely. The quality of your output is directly tied to the quality of your input. Rubbish in, rubbish out still applies.
So what makes a good prompt for vibe coding?
Our sources point to three main things. First, explicit clarity. Your prompt has to be really precise about what you want. No ambiguity. The AI needs clear instructions.
Right, be specific.
Yeah.
Like telling a human assistant exactly what task to do. What's number two?
Second is structured conciseness. You need enough detail for the AI to understand the context and the goal, but you also want to be concise enough so it can process efficiently and give you focused results. It's a balance.
Detail without rambling. Got it. And the third?
The third is using contextual examples. If you can give the AI relevant context or even actual examples of the kind of data you're working with or the output format you want, that massively helps guide it towards the right solution.
Okay, so clarity, structure, and examples. With those in mind, what are some real-world ways experts could actually use vibe coding?
Yeah.
Our sources had some ideas.
Yeah, quite a few. Personal productivity is a big one. Imagine quickly whipping up a custom tool to, say, pull key themes out of a huge pile of research papers you need to read.
Oh, that'd be useful.
Or automating some complex scheduling based on weird rules specific to your job, or maybe building a little financial model just for your own analysis. These are often highly specific, maybe even throwaway tools.
Tools you might not bother building traditionally because it would take too long.
Precisely.
Yeah.
That research paper summarizer, imagine getting back hours of reading time. That's real leverage for an expert.
Okay, that's compelling. What else?
Rapid prototyping. Huge potential there for research labs, innovation teams. You could use vibe coding to build a quick proof of concept. Test an idea, get some early data, without waiting weeks or months for a traditional software build.
So speeding up the innovation cycle.
Exactly. Think about a lab wanting to quickly simulate something basic about a new drug compound. Vibe code and interface, test the parameters much faster in those early stages.
And it's not just for science or business, right? Or education was mentioned too.
Correct. An expert in, say, history or physics could use it to create interactive learning tools. Maybe a simple simulation to help students grasp a complex concept, like that physics professor example, maybe an interactive model of quantum entanglement.
Making abstract ideas more tangible. Then there were small-scale applications. What falls under that for experts?
This could be anything, really. Maybe generating a specialized script to reformat some weird data you have, or building a little utility that automates a very niche repetitive task that only someone in your field does.
A one-off script that's faster to vibe code than to write by hand or wrestle with existing tools.
That's the idea. Speed and specificity for unique expert needs.
And finally, creative content generation. How does that fit in for experts?
Well, think about experts who also create content, technical writers, instructional designers, researchers publishing papers. Vibe coding might help generate initial drafts or structure complex information or even explore different ways to present their knowledge.
Like a brainstorming partner or a first draft assistant.
Kind of, yeah. Helping overcome that blank page or trying out new formats for sharing expertise.
Okay, so lots of exciting possibilities. But, as you hinted earlier, there are downsides. Our sources were pretty clear about the challenges and risks experts need to weigh up. Let's talk about quality control.
Yeah, this is a big one, especially if you're relying on this software for important work. AI-generated code. Well, it might not be the most efficient, it might not be robust, it might not follow industry best practices.
So it could be slow or crash unexpectedly.
Potentially, yes. And finding and fixing those issues later, the debugging and maintenance that could end up costing more time and money than you saved initially.
And what about security? That seems like a major concern.
Absolutely critical. Because vibe-coded software is often made quickly and maybe doesn't get the same deep code reviews, there's a higher risk of accidentally introducing security holes.
Especially if you're dealing with sensitive data or critical systems.
Exactly. For experts in fields like finance, healthcare, or anything with proprietary information, a security flaw introduced by vibe coding could be disastrous. Thorough vetting is crucial and maybe less likely in these rapid cycles.
Then there's technical debt. What does that mean here?
Right. So technical debt is basically the future cost you incur by taking shortcuts now. Code generated quickly, maybe without good documentation or a clean structure. It works now, but it's hard to change or build upon later.
So you're borrowing time now, but you'll pay it back with interest later when you need to modify it.
That's a good way to put it. For tools you end up relying on long term, that initial speed advantage could get completely eaten up by the cost of refactoring or fixing poorly designed code down the line.
The sources also brought up skill erosion among developers. Is the worry that relying on AI makes coders worse coders?
Yeah, that's the concern, yes. If developers, even expert ones, start leaning too heavily on AI to generate code and abstract away the complexity, they might gradually lose some of their fundamental programming skills. Their deep understanding of why things work could fade.
Making them less able to tackle really novel or complex problems that the AI wasn't trained on.
Potentially. It's about maintaining those core competencies, even when using these powerful assistance tools.
And lastly, ethics and intellectual property. That sounds like a minefield with AI code.
It is definitely complex. Who owns AI-generated code? What are the IP rights? Who's liable if the code causes harm or makes a mistake? The legal and ethical rules around this are still catching up, frankly. Experts using these tools need to tread carefully.
Okay, those are some serious considerations. Let's make this more concrete by looking back at those examples. The Generative AI Professional Prompt Engineering Guide and its website. How do they show vibe coding in action?
Well, it's quite meta, actually. The website itself, which teaches prompt engineering to everyone from beginners to pros, was reportedly built entirely using vibe coding.
The whole thing, using prompts.
Apparently so. Even the prompts used to build it were refined by AI along the way. It's like a demonstration built with the very technique it's discussing.
And that Generative AI Prompt Components Lab on the site.
Yes, that's a perfect example of a vibe-coded tool within the site. It's an interface designed to let you experiment with prompts. You can tweak different parts, the context, the task, the format, constraints using sliders or buttons.
So you can see directly how changing the prompt affects the AI's output, helping you become a better prompter.
Exactly. It's a hands-on way for experts to really get a feel for effective prompt architecture.
And the Prompting Cheat Sheet app was also vibe-coded.
That's right. An app designed to help you write better prompts, itself created using prompts. Another example of the technique being used to build tools for the technique.
Now, the dynamic HTML5 Kanban board. Building something like that entirely with prompts sounds pretty impressive. A Kanban board isn't trivial.
It is a really interesting case study. It shows you can build something quite functional iteratively, just prompting within a single HTML file, feature by feature.
So what did it end up doing? What features did they manage to get in?
Well, it's a proper Kanban board, to-do, doing, done columns. You can create interactive cards, add descriptions, assign people, set priorities high, medium, low with colors. It handles due dates and even flags overdue tasks visually.
Okay, that's already quite a bit. Does it have more advanced project management stuff?
Surprisingly, yes. You can edit anything on a card, and it saves instantly to your browser's local storage, so your data sticks around. It's got drag and drop to move tasks between columns. You can add comments to cards for collaboration notes.
Wow, what about getting data out?
It even has data export. You can save the whole board state as a CSV file. The file name is automatically generated with the board name, date, and time, and apparently there's even a built-in help guide, all in that one HTML file.
That's actually quite functional for something vibe-coded. And they used Grok 3 for it, but presumably other models could work.
That's an important point the source has made, yeah. While Grok 3 was the tool here, the vibe coding approach, the iterative prompting, should work with other capable large language models too. It's more about the prompting technique than the specific model.
Okay, let's look at the other one, the Python GUI currency converter. a graphical interface from prompts.
Indeed. This shows vibe coding isn't limited to just text-based or simple web stuff. They generated a Python application with a graphical user interface.
And it was iterative, too. They prompted, got code, fixed issues with more prompts.
Yes, including debugging. They specifically mention using prompts to fix errors they ran into when the application tried to fetch live exchange rates from an external API.
So what can this converter actually do? What features demonstrate its level of sophistication?
Well, it pulls live up-to-the-minute exchange rates from a public API. It has a user-friendly GUI built with Kinter, which is standard for Python GUIs. The currency drop-down menus are dynamic. They get populated automatically from the API, so they're always current.
Instant results.
Yeah.
Error handling.
Yep. Instant conversion results. It has error handling built in for things like bad user input or if the API connection fails. And interestingly, the sources noted it even has a reasonably modular code structure, which helps a bit with maintainability.
So these examples really suggest vibe coding can go beyond just simple scripts. You can build pretty complex user-facing applications.
I think that's a fair takeaway. They show the potential is growing, but, and it's a crucial but, experts still need to keep those limitations we discussed firmly in mind: the quality, security, the technical debt, especially if you're thinking about using this for something really critical or large scale.
Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive on vibe coding, what are the absolute key things our expert listeners should take away?
Well, first, vibe coding definitely offers some exciting ways to make software creation faster and more accessible. It's particularly interesting for experts who need rapid prototypes, custom internal tools, or maybe even educational resources. That speed is compelling. But you absolutely have to be aware of the limitations: the code quality, the security risks, the potential for things becoming hard to maintain down the road. These are real concerns you can't ignore.
So it's probably not going to completely replace traditional software engineering anytime soon.
That seems unlikely and probably unwise for many applications. The analysis really points towards a more balanced hybrid approach being the most sensible path for experts.
Hybrid, meaning using both.
Exactly. Use vibe coding as a tool within your workflow. Leverage its speed for initial ideas for specific non-critical utilities, but keep relying on human expertise and rigorous traditional methods for the core development, the testing, the security hardening, the deployment of anything really important.
Augmenting workflows, not replacing them entirely. What about the future? Could vibe coding get better? Maybe address some of those limitations?
That's the hope, I think. The future probably depends a lot on advancements in AI itself, specifically in AI-driven debugging and quality assurance. If AI gets much better at spotting errors in its own generated code or ensuring it meets certain standards,
then maybe vibe coding could become suitable for more complex, more critical projects.
it might well expand its applicability, yes, if the AI can help manage the quality and security aspects more reliably.
That's definitely a fascinating look at where software creation might be heading. Lots for experts in all sorts of fields to think about.
It really is. And that brings us to a final thought, really, for you listening. Given the speed and accessibility vibe coding offers, how could you, in your specific field of expertise, whether it's research, finance, design, engineering, whatever, how could you strategically use this to quickly prototype or test out new ideas? And maybe even more interestingly, what kind of new ways of working might emerge when domain experts like you can collaborate more directly and intuitively with AI to build software tools? It's definitely something worth pondering and maybe even experimenting with.